Mr Mayor. As you all know, I'm Simon O'Neill. I'm the Deputy Chair of the Ruapehu National Park Community Board. A bit unusual for me today. Often I come in and just look up, as you know, but I've actually been asked to come today by our community and to talk about the closure of State Highway 4 at Manson siding. It is up front straight away. No one disputes that the road needs to be repaired. And we're used to that up here, that things happen, and whether it's a council road or like a state highway, a NZTA managed road, sometimes things happen, weather events, maintenance and everything else. There's no one's got any problem at all that the road is broken, the road needs to be repaired. That's not our community's problem. The problem is the way it's been managed by NZTA. And just for full disclosure, the Mayor and I discussed this yesterday as well. And we have sort of had some ideas about how to manage such things in the future, which I'll do some work on next week. But at the moment, the closure points in National Park Waimarino, I'm sorry, I do say it, National Park Waimarino, so it doesn't get confused with a mythical Waimarino National Park. It's caused confusion, but I'm working on that. And in Mananui, are turning people away who have legitimate reasons to go past those signs. Mananui is 20 kilometres before the actual work site. As recently as this morning, the guy who would look like he was asleep in a deck chair when I came through to this meeting this morning, are randomly turning people away, people who work in the district, in that closed off area, people who live in that area. And apparently they're being quite aggressive about it with some people when they think they can get away with it. I wasn't challenged when I came back yesterday afternoon. I don't even think the guy knew I was there. Other people have been stopped. I noticed a very large group of bikers got through yesterday afternoon without being challenged. I imagine they had a really good time on Kaitiiki Road because they went off-road bikes. But the thing is, this is hurting our community. It's not just the visible businesses in Ōwhango, like the garage, the cafe, the little shuttle business. At this time of year, it's anybody who's running an Airbnb or a Booker badge. I mean, if someone stops you and asks you for the random rapid number of the place you're staying at, you could go, you know, give me evidence that you're going to be staying there. This is what's happening. That's just dumb. As you know, I work and drive a lot in the Waikato. Up there, they have road closures all the time. Very rarely are the actual closure points manned. There's a sign there, there's preliminary signs saying what the rules are or which route you need to take for specific destinations. But if you opt to go down the wrong road, that's on you. They don't have people there just arbitrarily stopping you and checking you and turning you around. So I think this is a local or regional management thing. It's a lot the same as the lack of thought going into it really seems to be the same as when the desert road closed. We gave NZTA forewarning of what we thought were going to be the issues, and it still took 2 serious crashes in National Park before they go, let's drop the speed limit. You know, that intersection's a known hotspot. There's near misses every day. It's a complex intersection. So I just like to say our community, our little community in Ōwhango is really, really hurting. Our little cafe, which I know that the councillors who come around to respective meeting places always stop at Blue Hill for a coffee. They're really hurting. They had a major booking cancelled yesterday because the group got turned around at Mananui. They come down to Kent from Hamilton specifically to visit Ōwhango. They booked a big lunch. The tables were all set up and just rang up and said, we've been turned around, we're going to go to Taumarunui now. Okay, this is what's happening. That really hurts. You know, a group like that spends easily upwards of $50 a person. And in a small cafe, especially at a time when your school holiday road traffic and village traffic's been diminished, that really, really hurts. Our small shuttle business, all of a sudden, even if they choose to go down the OEO Road, Kaitiiki Road route, which you could argue you could probably put an adventure challenge surcharge on for, that adds a lot to times, it adds a lot to running cost. It's not really a cost you can pass on. So if they get any business, they've got to go down the long way. It's simply not practical to come back down to Mananui, go all the way down the 41, 47 route. But school holidays, a lot of people are coming down for a last crack at the crossing because the weather's still good, the conditions up there are still eminently walkable, and we're hurting our people. It makes it really difficult for people to do the T42 and arrange a shuttle to pick them up at the other end and bring them back to their start point in Ōwhango, which is the general way that we would do it. So my message is that I think, and I agree, our community thinks the council does have a very strong advocacy role with government agencies. I mean, you are our voice. We can all go and contact people individually, but that doesn't have the same power as the council. I know that the mayor has been talking to NZTA, but I think it behoves all of us as elected members. And I know certainly our ward is feeling the loss of our ward councillor now after the reorganisation. I know we can argue it both ways, but one of the comments I've had is we feel we've lost our councillor, our voice on council, which is one of the reasons people actually said, can you come to the meeting today and represent our case, make sure the council, both staff and elected members, understand that this is really hurting. As you know, I'm caffeine operated. I go down to Blue. If I'm not working, I'm in Blue Hill every day for a coffee. I'm almost going to stop going down here until this is sorted because everybody is so upset. I don't mind people being angry at me because, as you know, I'm kind of used to that because it's self-inflicted. But when I go down there and the staff are upset because the place is empty, or they're getting lots of complaints, or the road is, we love the road being quiet, by the way, but not this quiet, not quite like this. It's really, those people are really, really hurting. And it really hurts me to go in there and see like our community hurting like that. I've heard reports of National Park, it's the same, because people are being turned around at National Park. They can't even get the schnapps for ribs, and that's a crime. You know, this could have been thought through a lot more. And I think we really need to hold NZTA's feet in the fire, kind of after the fact now. I mean, hopefully the road will open today, but the damage has been done. You know, school holidays after fairly erratic summer and people are still recovering from COVID. This has really, really hurt us, and it's probably going to hurt our long-term reputation as well. Because I went to Ruapehu, there's only one road, it's really iffy. Just go someplace that's got lots of roads, so something happens, we've got lots of alternatives. So if we could please, as the council, as councillors, elected members and staff, use whatever means we have to be our voice. I know people are talking to Susan, and Susan's generally pretty responsible to issues like this, but I think the council needs to be our voice, and it needs to be seen to be our voice as well. I know lots of stuff happens behind the scenes, but as we talked about at the Hui and National Park last week, I think we need to up our informational game so people can see that things are happening. And then my last little thing is our community boards are your voice, eyes, ears, legs, arms, everything in our little communities. So when something like this drops on Friday afternoon, I'd respectfully suggest that the very first people you should be letting know are your community boards. You know, instead of you trying to contact businesses and stuff like that, we can do that for you. We know who to talk to. We can just go for a little walk around respective villages and tell people. We can give you feedback because we get it right, or right in the neck, or right in here. And sometimes that pulls up issues that we're not aware of as well. We can pass that feedback on. And I think it's far more effective if we pass that feedback through to the council, who then collate it and then deliver a very effective message to whoever it needs to go. So please, I know we've got the rhetoric out there, but please use your community boards as your first point of contact out there. We can do so much. We can raise things like, has someone talked to the emergency services? I know certainly for my one, no one told us. I had to do that on Friday night. I rang my boss and go, hey, do you know about this? He goes, oh, no. Because State Highway 4 is cut between Tauhanga Johnson and Mananui, our district's cut in half. That means that those resources we would normally push around to support each other can't do that anymore. And that, I don't know about police, but I don't know about ambulance and fire. State Highways 4's cuts, all of a sudden Ruapehu just got really, really isolated. And I think the biggest heads up we can do to make sure those other groups are notified as well, or say come to your community boards, your community groups, and we'll give you that feedback as well. Has someone talked officially to police, Finn, St John, exactly? Anyway, that's my little rant for the day. I do acknowledge thank you to Rabbit and Janelle for enduring our dusty corrugated council roads and not taking the easy, longer up way. But thank you for coming round. It's duly noted. Yeah, so that's me. I'll take any questions.
Just before we do that, I just want to just point out to council that I did reach out to Anthony Gurr, the chair, on Saturday, and he and I talked about a number of issues and also passed on the concerns you had around the miscommunication, I guess, at the Mananui end, and that was direct. The issue was passed on to Linda Stewart, and she passed on that to the contractors. So I don't quite know how it unfolded, but at least you knew about it and understood it.
As of coming in this morning, the sign at Mananui still says residents only. I don't think it's that relevant now because the guy's now in a deck chair, and I think he was asleep when I went through, which might raise some other issues. But yeah.
G'day, Simon. Hey, we got stopped up at the checkpoint up by the service station there, and we just said we're going Kairiki way to Tamanui, and they just let us go through. One thing we did come down that road. One thing I did notice was the amount of forestry down there, coming down that road, you know, and not the setback, but also just prior to the Desert Road reopening, we did, I did anyway, I wrote to Linda Stewart through my council email and asked if we could have a debrief on, you know, what we could do better, what we've learned from the, what happened for the Desert Road closure. And I think that's very important that, you know, we still do have that debrief with the community and not just with the council managers. But, and we did ask, we got Roger Brady and Linda to zoom in at our community board meetings. So it's, yeah, I think we need to be part of that discussion. I asked Linda if we could be part of that discussion. I got a bit of a mixed reply coming back, mainly about the speeds won't be dropped. We did ask about the, you know, keeping the speeds as they were, and they said usual thing the government is trying to get people to go faster, not slower. And yeah, so do you think that we should have a meeting all together, or both community boards or both communities, because it affected all of us? Yeah,
absolutely. It would have been good if we could have got NZTA to zoom into our last community board for us as well, because we were affected, as was obviously our community in Wairu area, and that might have given us also an opportunity to pass forward, or for NZTA to actually give their perspective on things. I do think it's a lot of sort of absentee sort of management, very hands off and from a distance. But yeah, absolutely, I think we should. I think we should have a, you know, just taking a step back from that, we should have a process when we do have any big issue or event in our district. We should have a process where we can very quickly either physically or pull in those lessons learned, that feedback, maybe bang on the head any misinformation that might be floating around out there. I've had to do a lot of that about Bailey Bridges over the weekend because people don't realise how wide they are. Why can't you put a Bailey Bridge over the siding and we'll just go through life as normal? Because they do that everywhere. No, they don't. Yeah, so I think absolutely, yes, we should wrap it. Yeah, no, it should be a standing part of our processes.
Okay, I've got two more questions. First, sort of Vivian online, and then Fiona, and then Lynn.
Okay, sorry. Hi, Simon. I think Rabbit's covered what I wanted to ask anyway. Thank you very much for bringing this to the council. It just seems to be what emails from contractors that are doing the crossing that are getting turned around and having to spend quite a bit of petrol going around instead of being allowed to go through when it's obvious what their vehicle says. Anyway, I was going to ask about with regards to what Rabbit's just said, the debrief and communication for future events. We can't do it now, but would a debrief and other avenues of communication so that you can get that out to the village? Are there anything else that we could do?
I think there's just two parts. I think if we do a debrief on this one and collate our lessons learned, and then release it. I mean, there might be some things we don't want to, and I think that's an acceptable process. But to put out that this happened, we've now, after the fact, we've sat down, we've identified these lessons, we've identified perhaps some messaging. It might be, and I know this is one of Clive's things. You know, if you get a bit of education out there ahead of time for next time, then people know how things work. But I think we do need to do those sort of things. I think it does need to be part of our sort of extant processes. Something happens, it might not be something that's a big thing for the council, but it might be a big thing for one of our communities. We have a process there. It might be if it's only a community, right? The community board does it and then presents a report to council. Here's the feedback from this type of thing, and then council can take that in action or bring it into its own process. But I think at the moment it's very informal, and there seems to be, especially dealing with government agencies, a lot of Groundhog Dayism going on. Yeah, so,
Is that all you have, Vivian? Yeah, sure. Fiona is next.
Kia ora, Simon. First one, I always sit next to Clive so we can have a little talk, Clive. But so there will be a next time, won't there?
Yes.
There's going to be a next time.
Yes.
So perhaps our learnings can be to get all of these problems ahead of the game, because it's going to be north, isn't it? The next time the road close. Isn't there a north closure? Oh, yes. I'm pretty sure.
Mahawi people are looking at as the next one. It's sort of being coned off along the river there. Yeah.
So there's going to be a next.
Yep.
So, and we don't know. Do you know?
So this was a one-off collapse in the road. There was no way of predicting what might happen.
I see.
You don't know where the
So-
next
so
one.
the-
Even on that note, if I'm just on
No,
what
but the planned ones, do you know about?
Oh, the planned ones, the planned ones, yes, they're done in advance.
Yeah.
You may not know from a season, so they're never accurate to a day or a week,
Right.
but you know that they're going
As soon as you know, then perhaps we can put a lot of planning around that.
Yep.
Yep,
That
cool.
helps.
Simon, yeah, thanks for coming in. I just wanted to ask you something off, but it's still about Ofango. How do you feel about the school speed slowing down?
I'm a general slow down person as a point of view. I think we're lucky with National Park and Ofango that the schools are off. They're not on the main road, even though National Park School is on Carroll Street, which is a bit of a freeway sometimes. But I think I'm reasonably comfortable with the 50k in Ofango Village, because apart from maybe where I am on Matane Road, there's not many places you can actually get up to 50k's. If you were going to reduce, I'd have a very low threshold for reducing the speed zone on both sides of the school to 30k's. Just even look at me like that and I'll put my hand up. But I think the bigger problem in Ofango is the State Highway 4 going through. It's a big straight. Responsible drivers will slow down. And we were at the cafe the other day, just watching them. You get responsible, and then sometimes it's a lot of tonnage cruising through at 100k's, and you can absolutely feel it. My guide is actually my curtains at home, because someone going at 70k's will just ripple the curtains. A big truck going at 100k's will blow the curtains right in like a big gust of wind. And I think that's our big risk, because we have the car parking for the garage and the cafe is generally by the toilets. So everyone who's going to use one of those two businesses crosses the road. And that's lots of elderly people, that's lots of kids, that's mums with prams and all that sort of claggage. And I think we really need, I know what the new laws say, and I know there's also, it's a long, painful process, but there is scope there to put a case up to get it reviewed. Unfortunately, the philosophy is that nothing's a problem until someone gets hurt or actually killed. And that's the thinking I think we need to change. And that's why the community board has been representing for some time now that the 70k zone south of Ofango now needs to be extended down another couple of 100 metres, because there's a new subdivision gone in there, and that, I can't remember the name of the road that goes down there. It's actually become quite a busy intersection. There's lots of kids down there, so they get off the school bus in the centre of Ofango. Now they all walk down and head down there, either on their bikes or just walking. So the intersection's quite busy, but it's 100k's, and you can just see that sooner or later something's going to happen. Because generally they'll walk down the footpath to the pub and then cross the road there, so you're only on the exposed open highway with no footpath for maybe 100 metres or so. But I think we do need to really be reviewing our speed limits and prepared to get into a bit of a dust up over it with government if we need to. And I'd rather see that happen before we end up with a serious injury or a death. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Now done. Last question.
And a quick question, I hope it's a quick answer.
Okay, and take
Actually, I've got two now, thanks to Rabbit. But for you, the Manson side thing where the roads caved in was, and I heard that it was a one-way for a while, or it's been, so can you in 60 words or less, say what was the history? How long was that road looking like that before?
Going like the undercut first occurred about 4 to 5 years ago. And I remember it was discussed at the board, and it wasn't an official recommendation, but there was a suggestion that perhaps they started to cone it off when the subsidence reached the shoulder line. And it was coned off, but everybody kept running over the cones, so they just stopped coning it off after all. That was about 4 to 5 years ago. So it's actually a longer term problem. Then about a month ago, maybe 4 to 6 weeks, they started to cone it off, and the cones sort of started to extend across. They put a speed restriction in. So I think NZTA's known this has been a bigger issue lot further than just Friday. It may have come to the crunch on Friday, or someone's released some funds. But the history does go back, certainly recently, at least 4 to 6 weeks.
That was my question, really, because that's the sort of thing argument we can take to NZTA, the fact that they've sort of must have had somebody look at it 4 to 6 weeks ago, and so they might not have realised that it was going to be required to be closed. You know, Friday Arvo's unacceptable. But my fear, and this one's true, Clyde, is that the Mangatiao Bridge may be the next one. The infrastructure manager, because it's 30k speed limit at the moment. It's important. It's something that we've been looking at for a long time. So we don't want to be in the same position as NZTA.
Second question.
That was it.
Sorry, so yes, bringing that up, it is right, because we had a member of the public, we were talking about it, they actually approached NZTA to complain about this closure, and they said, well, you were given 2 weeks notice. He said, prove it. He said, well, no, we've given you 2 weeks notice. I was like,
It only went on the NZTA side on Friday, and the council, most of us saw when it went up on the RDC page, so well done to whoever picked it up and punted it out straight away. But they were doing work, they must have been looking at it prior, and I think even they give us a heads up, we are perhaps considering, or at some stage in the near future, we may need to do something, especially getting into the school holidays, because school holidays is like, that's a peak period for our businesses. Then people can look at things. We can perhaps do some pre-marketing of if you're coming to National Park or coming to Ruapehu, here's perhaps the recommended route. Don't come down 3, 4 like you normally do. Come down state 1 through Taupo. If you're still going to come here, then here's a way we can make it a little less painful for you. We can get our own plans in place. We can make sure our emergency services are activating their contingency plans if it happens at short notice, or the road just goes, because it happens sometimes.
and this could have been just a communication faux pas from them, but
Absolutely.
own it.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for that, Simon. And the issue, by the way, won't be going away, because the nature, as you know, that area, both down and up above the road itself, is washed with water, these directions and the like. So while I patch this up today and probably get it on underway today, that won't be the end. So we need to, I think the point is here is that we need a plan B for that particular area for the long term. I don't know what that looks like, but goodness, we can't have another weekend like we did here.
I reckon plan B is keeping our local roads up to scratch. Nothing in there.
That's a very valid point, because there was lots of discussion online about the Oya Road, Kaitiiki. And I think for locals, it's a it's a viable option, and that's what they do up north, in Waikato. There'll be a local bypass, and there'll be an everybody else bypass. And certainly for managing heavy transport and all that. But I have to go to the meeting, but thank you very much for your time. And I'll be in touch next week about doing lessons learned and stuff.
Thank you. Someone like to move.
Thanks, Simon.
We reinstate the orders, bring those